Hello and welcome to the Great League Remix Cup. Yeah, that was embarrassing. I'm not sure if we should keep that. Alright, whatever. Welcome to the Great League Remix Cup. What does this mean? Well, it is a cup that is done in the Great League, and it is also one that has a ban on the top 20 used Pokemon by ranks Ace and above in the previous Great League meta. And with the good help of our good friend CountXevious, we have come up with a little bit of a meta guide of the Pokemon that we think that will be seen in this cup and Pokemon that you could or should be using. So let's go ahead and get started. So these are some of the Pokemon types and also the Pokemon that we think that could be the most viable in this Remix Cup. As you can see, there's many different types of categories, and the Pokemon at the top of the box in each category can beat the ones going down. So for the water bucket, for example, Swampert can beat both Whiscash and Clodsire. Shadow Poliwrath can beat Vigoroth and Double, and Vigoroth can also beat Double, so on and so forth. Now, obviously, these aren't the only Pokemon that you can see within the Great League. However, these ones probably are going to be pretty viable. So let's go ahead and see how these Pokemon play out against each other in what do we like to dub the circle or square of life. So the main thing that sticks out to me is the use of the counter users. As you can see, Shadow Poliwrath is going to be able to take on the other counter users, but also they're going to be taking on one half of the flyers of being Skarmory and Mandibuzz, and that's just because of the counter damage being able to do so much overall, also being able to hit back with the Icy Wind, which lowers the attack, and for the sake of the Vigoroth and the Double, they're not actually fighters, so these flying type attacks aren't going to be doing as much damage to them as they would the Poliwrath, or if there was like a Medicham or another actual fighter. The flyers, as you can see, have been separated out into two boxes, and the Skarmory and the Mandibuzz are also going to be able to do well against that Cresselia. Cresselia is really the basic psychic type that I think will do well in this meta, and it is going to be able to obviously beat the fighters, but also is going to be able to beat the waters because of its use of Grass Knot as its charge attack. Meanwhile, those waters are going to be able to do a pretty nice job against the flyers, especially the Skarmory and Mandibuzz, but also, for the most part, Gligar, and can hit the Mantine as well. So now that we have a lot of Pokemon that are going to be playing out against each other in the meta, it's nice to take like a further glance back and see if there are any core-breaking Pokemon, Pokemon that will do relatively well against this whole meta that we've laid out. And one of the Pokemon that really jumps to mind is going to be Jellicent. Jellicent, being that part ghost and part water, is going to be hitting pretty neutral, being able to go toe-to-toe with almost everything on this board, with a couple of small exceptions. And that's going to go ahead and be the Cresselia. Cresselia, having that Grass Knot, is going to be able to hit back against the Jellicent's water typing. And even though the Hex and the Shadow Ball are going to be doing super effective damage against the Cresselia, it still needs to land more than one charge attack to be able to take it out. Mandibuzz is just hard counter city for the Jellicent, unfortunately. There is some merit, I suppose, to be running Ice Beam, which would be giving you a little bit better coverage, but if you just want to cover the Mandibuzz, Jellicent is probably just not the way to go in general. And the last one that is going to be giving it a bit of trouble, especially if it has a double kick or two advantage, is going to be that Double, because one of Double's actual charge attacks is Payback, which is going to be hitting very, very heavy against the Jellicent, and another one is Wild Charge, which is also going to be doing a lot. But overall, Jellicent is something that we should definitely be concerned about, and because of that, there are going to be a whole nother set of Pokemon that will be brought into play into this Great League Remix. The first one is going to be Lickitung. Lickitung, with just that bulkiness to it and its normal typing, and the fact that its fast attack is Lick, it's going to be doing super effective damage to that Jellicent, and meanwhile, the Hexes and the Shadow Balls are really not going to be doing anything, and Jellicent is going to have to solely rely on Surf. Lickitung is also, since it's generally bulky overall, going to be doing decent against the meta, so we need to find some good Lickitung counters, and that is going to be the dragons that we talked about earlier. Not only are the dragons going to be able to take on Lickitung, they're also going to be able to be doing rather well against that Jellicent, and basically a whole lot of the meta in general, except maybe those counter users, because as you can see, most of these dragons are either part ice or part dark, and the fighting type damage is going to be doing quite a lot to it. The only exception is Shadow Dragonair. And Shadow Dragonair is kind of weird in this meta overall because it doesn't do as well against the other dragons, and its lack of bulk also makes it so it actually loses against the Jellicent if the Jellicent goes straight Surf because of its Aqua Tail and Body Slams not being able to do much back to the Jellicent either. However, Dragonair is still one of the most popular type dragons for a reason, and I bet we're going to see a lot of them in this Great League remix. So since we have all these dragons terrorizing the ground and sky, we definitely are going to need some ice type Pokemon as well to round things out. And the main one that I want to focus on is Abomasnow, because Abomasnow being able to throw the ice weather balls or even Icy Wind now, which will lower the attack of the opponent, and also being able to throw energy balls is going to be able to hit that Jellicent as well as also the water types. Some of the flyers, as you can see, we're definitely rounding out a big meta overall. And since this is basically the meta that we see maybe mixing up here, I want to give a couple of recommendations for safe swaps as well. And safe swaps are the Pokemon that you would use if, for instance, you had a really bad lead, like if you led Abomasnow and you were into that Vigoroth, for example. I'm going to say the counter users overall are going to make pretty great safe swaps, being that Poliwrath, that Vigoroth, and even the Double. Poliwrath has that Icy Wind potential, which is going to be able to debuff your opponent, and also Scald, which also has a major chance of debuffing your opponent as well. Vigoroth is just one of the best safe swaps. Anytime that it's used in a meta, you're going to see it quite often in that position. And also gaining Rock Slide as one of its moveset updates in the Timeless Travels is really advantageous for it. Another Pokemon that could be doing rather well as a safe swap, just getting 1 or 2 wing attack advantages, is going to be Gligar. And the last one is that Dragonair. Like we talked about earlier, it doesn't really do as well against the other dragons, but for the most part, Dragonair is a 2-shield machine. Meaning that if you use that Dragonair as a safe swap, a lot of times you are going to be able to regain that alignment that you're looking for simply by double shielding and making that investment in your Dragonair. So this, in a nutshell, is what we think the Great League Remix could shake out to be. Let us know in the comments what you think, if there's any Pokemon that we're missing, any team compositions you want us to try. If you're looking to want to take a screenshot of this, go ahead. But also there is a link to the actual photo on my Twitter as well, so you can go ahead and just simply download it from there. Wish you guys all the best of luck on your ELO climb, and we'll see you in the next video.